offices and people.
A sign reader and a agenda. I'm kind of lost. I'm not sure I can do this without a clicking pen. I don't have a clicking.
Ooh, good, how are you? Thank goodness.
Oh,
Landy.
oh, you want longer? Hey,
You don't worry, I was gonna take care of
What they bring on the sound man? The sound man, where they bring that?
I think we've got everything ready to get it ordered. Maybe. Well, I thought we'd have a few more people, but.
Who we missing? Hey, Richard. You heard from Richard? I have.
I guess we got everybody.
What? I know.
What's that?
Richard. You heard from Richard?
I talked to him today. He wanted me to call Sarita to see if she could let him out. But I didn't call.
How's he doing?
Talking to him, he sounds pretty good most of the time.
I saw a couple boys out there. They tell me can't walk too good.
Well, that's part of the problem, and they're supposed to be giving him therapy, and I don't know. He says he's doing it, and I hear he's not, and I just don't know. I hear,
What is he, 86 now?
something like
Yeah,
that.
86.
Yeah, he wants to be back. He's worried that we're gonna kick him off. Last meeting, he tried to get signed in, but figure out how to do it. The problem is they won't let anybody come in, so you can't have anybody to go in there and help him to be there together. All right, I've got 6 o'clock. If we can get started here. Call this meeting of the steering committee order. First item of business would be to, I think we've got everyone here that's on the meeting tonight. I don't think we're missing anybody. Review the minutes from the March 2nd meeting. Are on the back of your sheet. Is there any corrections or additions or deletions to those minutes? We do have a motion to approve. Second. Have a motion by Mr. Clarity, second by Mr. Parsh to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It is done. Next up, Mayor, kind of tell us what you got going on. Please let us know about.
All right. I received a request from Volunteer Pool and Hardware to look at Front Street and maybe have it declared no parking area because of vehicles parking on the street and make it difficult for their delivery truck or tractor trailer to back in there and get loaded up. Contacted the highway department. We don't have any ordinances specifically saying how you're supposed to do that. Contacted the highway department. They reached out to the Tennessee County Highways Officials Association. They said it had to be a resolution of the county commission declared a no parking zone. Myself, Mr. Scruggs, can go over there and look at it with the business owner and pretty much from, where 111, West Main, 111 Main Street back to Front Street, we would recommend making that no parking zone because of the parking vehicles right up against the old auditorium building. And so it's making it difficult to get in and out. I've also talked to Cliff about it in the past, and it's making, he'd rather have his trash trucks come on Front Street, pick it up and get their trash cans off of Main Street because it's blocking up from the ADA access up here. And so that has been an issue. So we, the Highway Commission looked at it and voted to send it to the county commission to declare that section of Front Street no parking. So I asked the county commission to consider that. We also want to give notice to everybody around the parking, so they have a chance to be heard, make sure that their voices are heard. So we'll be sure to give them notice. But that has been the request from the Highway Commission, is to declare everything from 111 Main Street back to the Front Street Broadway intersection no parking.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
wasn't that supposed to have been done about 3 or 4 years ago? When we built on the community center over here, Front Street was supposed to have been closed all the way through, because we bought that land from the Rotary.
Just a portion of it.
I know that we declared this end of River Street closed. I don't remember us ever addressing anything. I wasn't on the commission, and I'm just going back my remembrances. I don't remember. I think there was talk about it. One of the concerns, and probably will be a concern, was ball game parking. You know, people parking down there, you know, going to the ball game, particularly people that had mobility issues, park there to go across the bridge. But I don't know that we ever addressed it. We discussed that. We discussed making this one way back here, talking about taking from Church Street down, making that a one-way street. But I don't think there was ever any action taken on it that I recall, but I'm not sure.
I thought when we got redone the old co-op building, that the county purchased a small piece of property from the Rotary or somebody.
No, it was the Lions Club on the piece of property that was that side of Front Street, between Front Street and the creek, in behind the old
And
pet den.
There's about 3 or 4 parking spots there.
I thought Front Street was supposed to be closed all the way through, so they could use that little section there just for parking.
Well, I mean, it is closed, you can't drive through it, but I don't think it was ever designated no parking in there. I don't know. I do remember discussions about it when we're talking about closing this, and may have been decided that since that's closed, it's a moot point, they can't drive through there either. You know, but I don't think that was the issue, is parking as much as the traffic flow, but I don't know. I
If
can't.
that's a no parking zone, if we make it a no parking zone, just for basically loading in and out, what about the people at the end right here that live in that building and park up and down that road?
That's the problem. They're
That's-
parking out on the street, and actually there is kind of an ordinance that somewhat addresses it, but it's not on point, says you're not supposed to be within 18 inches of the side of the road. But the sheriff's department says it's not declared no parking, so they're not going to enforce it. And so they've asked to have that declared no parking, and they are parking out in the street, I mean, full vehicle in the lane of traffic.
I mean, they could park in that parking lot.
And they are, some of them are parking in the parking lot now, there's still one gentleman, a little Ford Ranger that likes to park up near the stop sign, so you can't really even get near the stop sign.
So are we talking about declaring it no parking during business hours or 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or am I confusing this subject? I'm trying to understand exactly what because I know the problem was the loading and unloading of trucks, which are not going to be down there at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, loading and unloading.
Oh, there's also the trash trucks that belong to.
That's early in the morning.
Because right now, you've got your trash containers sitting on your brand new sidewalk out right in your area, you're supposed to keep clear for ADA purposes.
one time, I think we had discussed the problem with parking some of the parking lots and things, and one solution that was batted about was doing an ordinance saying that there was no parking on any street unless it was designated parking, unless it was striped for parking, unless you had parking stripes to pull into. And I think that didn't go anywhere because we felt like it would be too cumbersome to paint the stripes on the road. So I don't know. I know we've had discussions along this line concerning parking in times past, and there are issues, and the police department, sheriff's department are not going to do anything about it. I mean, we've had multiple complaints about people parking up here on what is that, Church Street, where you can't see to pull out this way. That's one reason we were talking about making it one way, so you're not pulling out there into a blind spot. But I don't know. I certainly, I went down and looked at it. I think the easy solution to this problem down there is to make it no parking then. And that's a simple resolution by this body. I was at the highway meeting. We talked about it at length out there, and that seemed to be the best solution that the highway people came up with, was to just simply make it no parking. My question is, what's going to happen ball game night when you have a half dozen people pull in there to park? I just don't know. I foresee that being a problem. Maybe
Why couldn't you do it during certain business hours or just,
So
you
you
know?
could, but I also want to point out that little asphalt area next to the creek is not Front Street. Front Street is a street. 2 lanes of traffic, that's it, not parking lots or anything off of it. I'm just saying, don't park on the street. So if you got game night, why would somebody park on the street and block traffic? They're gonna park on that little asphalt area, which is in the plans to rehabilitate, and we've got an engineering firm coming there and build a retaining wall and all that stuff, because I already talked to T-Deck about it. But that is in the downtown connectivity plans to expand parking in the downtown area, and that was one of the areas to do it, was that little asphalt area right there next to the creek. But since it's fallen off in the creek, we've got to go to the retaining wall, and T-Deck wants you to go about it a certain way, so that's a little bit pricey. But for right now, I'm talking about just the lanes of travel, the street itself, not any parking or anything off of it. I guess you could make it during business hours, but if a trash truck's coming through there at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's business hours 6:30, so they gotta get out at 6:30 and move their vehicle, or
Or just put it-
the simple thing is they can just park right over here in the parking lots right across the street.
You see it everywhere, I mean, in other cities where there's time restricted parking. No parking from 6 AM to, whatever, 6 PM or whatever, you see that everywhere. It's not
Nobody reads
an
it.
alien concept.
Nobody reads them signs.
Well, they may not let you let an officer take care of things. That's
To be honest, I mean, they didn't read them at the airport, so they sure won't read them here.
well, I'm saying then you have a legal right that you, officer can take on those there. It's totally, so there's ways to go about that part. They'll learn in that case.
which is going to be the easiest to administrate and to enforce.
I see.
I don't know. I can see it both ways. Bo, you've been long. How do you see this playing out? I could put you on the spot, but
Need time or do it, I mean, none, you need a time or do it, none, what I was talking about.
Well, we're trying to get business downtown, so we got one, so we need to help them out a little bit, so they get the truck in and out and load. I think we need to just shut the street down for 24 hours, no parking.
is that a motion? Okay, well, we don't need a motion in this committee, but I think that's our consensus. I certainly don't have problems with it. I see the need for it. I do see the need for it. I see the need for additional places, some help too, but that's a start. And I'm certainly, I just want everybody to be kind of in agreement with the
See what I'm
concept.
looking at, exactly. Can we pull it up on like Tennessee Property Viewer there, you got internet access right there?
It's gonna be about this big.
I've looked at it a bunch of times, I mean, I don't test the property, I think it's, get a better idea of what we're really looking at.
I was gonna do it on Google Maps.
Okay. That probably understand that.
We're not talking about, he was saying 111 or there's two buildings that have loading docks at the back. 109. So it would be those buildings. Problems where the parking beside those skating.
That's right there.
And then.
How long is that little parking area in there, just all around?
There you go.
Parking area right there.
So, we're talking about closing the first,
From about right here.
so is that the road that goes between Iron Gent and,
Yeah.
so that's the road here?
It's the one that parallels the creek.
Yeah, that one
But
right
the
there.
whole road, or we talking about from,
I mean,
where from? I didn't know what Front Street was.
Me right here where old Rocky Creek Church, where Rocky Creek Church was, and, Reggie Bud's building. There's an alleyway between that one and Sharon Level's building. It'll be from that road, one that Rocky Creek was in, back towards front to Broadway.
So we're only talking about the first couple of them.
So about
You
right
see
here,
it, yeah, you see it come out back there.
about right here, back to Front Street, right here. And there's a stop sign right there, you can see there's supposed to be 2 lanes of travel, and you got cars sitting right down through here.
I see what you're saying.
Making
So them
effectively
cars
one
sit
lane.
there all the time.
A picture looks like a good, much better view of what we're talking about. So, yeah, I see what we're saying there now, no problem. I just want to get an idea of what we're talking about.
They park over there across the street or back there behind where that parking lot is.
See, what's that? A lot of these trucks have to back down in.
Yeah, I see where we're at now, 100%. We're not talking about closing the entire road all the way out through there to park.
Well, and it's not closing the road, it's saying don't park.
Closing the
Park
park.
on the road.
The road's
park.
open, correct.
No park.
Well, currently, there's no designated parking on this street.
Okay. Here's what I'm getting at. If I go down downtown Nashville, I might find areas where during this 3 hours, both lanes are open. And the next hour, or the middle of the day, these lanes are set aside for, this one lane set aside for parking. You can park and actually become the lane of traffic. So there's other ways we can go about looking at it, but I see what you're saying.
Well, there is, but downtown Nashville also has a traffic enforcement division and everything else under the sun, and we don't. If you go down Broadway over here, there are designated parking places on the side of the street, not on the street.
I don't think we have to get ourselves upset. We just have a
I'm not getting
good
upset.
conversation.
And
Personally,
I am having a conversation, I'm just saying, right now, that's what you're looking at. If you want to do it during business hours or not, that's up to the commission. I'm just saying, this is what the request was, this is what the issues are.
So their request is to do it for all the time, right? Not restricting hours to do it all the time.
They just asked to make it no parking. Right now, what they really care about is their truck being able to back in there and unload, because right now they can't without possibly ripping the door off of the truck.
And they're coming and parking out here on the front road to try to unload, and that's blocking your traffic on this main thoroughfare.
100% see the issue.
I think it'd be simple, just lock it off all the time. If you start trying to do different hours, you get more headaches.
No.
If you just put the sign up that says no parking anytime.
Are there any other businesses where people are there during the day, let's say, for example, Sharon, or Bruce Park?
Most people in Sharon's office need to park in the alleyway next to her building or over here on Main Street. There's currently only volunteer pool and supply, but Reggie Bud has been talking to people about his building. We've also been looking at it as a possible entrepreneur center, so we're hoping to get people in that area.
Yeah, I'm sure that they do it all the time, and if that runs into an issue, we can tackle and address it.
That'd be easy on the sheriff's
Yeah,
part.
that's what I'm saying.
I think it easy on them.
Where the highway department will come in and paint it, where it says, areas like the low parking or anything like that. It's gonna be signed.
Probably stencil no parking. I know they say plan on getting no parking signs. No parking. So that's up to them.
A lot of people don't ever look at the sign, if they look at something, they're gonna park on top of it, might look.
Well, I'd probably on Front Street, if they were coming in, they could just stripe it off, so we got lanes of travel and everything designated, and have the no parking signs
Yeah.
out there.
Bill seemed amenable to providing the signs. And the sheriff said that they would enforce it if they had it, if we passed it and it was designated that way. So I think just write the resolution, and bring it to us. Everybody okay with that?
And now that I can see where.
If you're not, you can vote against it.
Well, just, you can amend it tonight at the meeting.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's
But I'm
set in
saying-
stone.
It's needed. It's very much.
Look at it, see.
Well, if they had asked the people not to park there, please park over the lawn. And they,
I completely understand what you're saying, that's what we look at. I'm sure. You would come.
I mean, if they had been a little bit more receptive.
Completely understand what you're saying.
All righty,
I thought. when we
moving
talked
right
about-
along.
Well.
You got a motion.
Steering, we just decide where to send it to. Got a motion to send it to the full body? Is that what your motion was?
Yes,
Who made that, I'm sorry?
Mr. Nolan. Second, Mr. Ford has a second. All in favor of sending this to the full body by resolution, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Next.
As the census is completed, you know, every 10 years, we have to do redistricting as required by law. So we have to put together a redistricting committee. Comptroller's office hasn't released their directions yet. They usually update it every 10 years. They haven't updated it due to the census being delayed. We're not going to get the actual census numbers to September 30th. And then talking to Mr. Jewell and Mr. Paxton at the election commission, they want to go ahead and get a committee together so we can do the preliminary work and be able to work as quickly as it can once we get those numbers. I believe last time we had a 5-member committee, so we're looking at doing that again. Right now, I'm looking at, Mr. Jewell said he's willing to serve, Mr. Paxton's willing to serve, and we've got 3 other places. I need to speak to somebody about, Mr. Paxton's got 1 member of the election commission. He's gonna ask to see if he's interested, and there's 2 other members I'm gonna speak to see if they're interested, so we should hopefully have the entire 5-member committee nominated for the county commission meeting this month.
It's a lot simpler to do this now than it was years ago, because we have a computer program. When we move the block, it tells us exactly how many voters we've moved. It has to be, each district has to be balanced within 5% plus or minus. The thing that we want to absolutely try to do is the districts that we know are going to be fast growing districts, to try to put them on the negative side of that 5%, because we know we're going to have growth from them. So we've sat down and looked at it, and there's going to be a lot of changes to the boundaries. One other thing that comes into play is that you try, you don't have to, but you try to keep any elected official remaining in the district that they're serving in. The problem comes in when you have people that are right on the edge of a district. Sometimes it's impossible to keep them within their district. Much like myself, when I was on the commission the first time, I was at the very corner of the 5th district. Now I'm at the very corner of the 7th district, because one side of the road went one way or the other. So there may be some people that have to wind up being in another district, but this coincides with the new election cycle in 22. So there's all those kind of issues. You also, there's some things like where it's a predominantly minority-based district, you have to try to maintain that if possible, which comes into play primarily with the 5th and 7th district. So there's a lot of things that you wouldn't think of. It sounds simple, just balance it out, but there's all those issues that have to be come into play when you're doing it. But the new program that the election commission, the state election commission has provided to do this makes it very helpful. All we will be doing is our school board districts and our 10 county districts. The state districts, senatorial districts, all that will be done by the state. So strictly all we're talking about is our county district. It needs to be someone that's, the people on the committee need to be people that are familiar with the county, the roads, the makeup, the growth, things of that nature. So who typically winds up doing this sort of thing. All right, next.
We've been in contact with the Greater Nashville Regional Council for doing a strategic planning. This is something we've talked about, I think, at least since I've taken office. We're trying to do a strategic plan for the county to see where we're going to go, what our priorities are over the next 10 years. We initially talked to them probably about this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier before the pandemic hit. They just sent a quote out at that time of $41,000, but they said they were talking to USDA, trying to see if there was some planning money available to help assist with that. Again, USDA being a federal government agency, and federal government agencies went down to skeleton staff for a long period of time during COVID. USDA did recently get back to them. They are going to be able to use $15,000 in USDA planning assistance money to help pay for this. That brings it down to $26,420. The water department is going to be included in this, as when they included the USDA money, now they are also doing a capital improvement plan. That is something we've also talked about doing for the county with capital improvement plan. That's going to be part of this plan as well. Since the water utility is included in that, I took it to the water utility board to see if they'd be willing to help pay for some of it. They were willing to contribute $6,000 towards that price, so that gets it down to $20,000. So, and with the American Rescue Plan coming out, one of the things that's been stressed to us through some webinars I've attended is whenever they release these guidelines as to what you can spend this money on, they want you to have a plan in place as to what you're going to use it for. So some of it may be used for infrastructure, so that capital improvement plan will go a long way towards that, to back that up if we use that for that funds. And so we can use the governor's local safety support grant right now. We've got $597,000. We can use $20,000 towards that, and that'll help us get planning going in place for this American Rescue Plan, so we can start going and allocating those funds whenever we get direction from the Treasury Department. So I would ask if you send that on to Budget and Finance to consider allocating some of that money to pay for this strategic planning. And again, almost anything we apply for, any grants, anything like this, they always ask what your strategic plan is. And to this point, we don't have one.
Sorry, what was the 20,000 coming from?
The governor's local support grant they put in the budget last year, initially was $754,000. We have $597,000 remaining. So far, it's gone to things like computer systems, radios for I think EMA and some other departments.
So 20,000 is what we'll be looking at. Is that correct?
Basically, what it is the county general fund will basically pay for it, and everybody else is reimbursing them. I think the $15,000 that USDA is coming, this comes right off the top. We won't be paying that comes right up, because that was a grant that was given to GNRC for the planning, and they just asked if they could use a part of it to do ours, and I said yes, they could use $15,000. So that $15,000 comes right off the top of the 40. That should never be built to this.
This is very necessary when we apply for these grants. It's just, if you don't have this on some of them, you might as well not, you're wasting your time filling out the paperwork. And we haven't done it in many years, so long, I don't know if we even know when the last time it was done. It's been forever, if it was ever. So let's move it to budget and finance.
You'll send that this month, the budget, or we'll send it this month, the budget finance. Next week.
Don't see any reason for us not to. Plan for that to go to budget and finance this month.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We need to get moving on that process as soon as we can.
Would like to make a motion to send it to budget and finance. Mr. Ferguson makes a motion, send it to budget and finance. Mr. Nolan makes a second.
You want?
You make the second. Excuse me. Have a motion and a second to send this budget and finance. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? It is done. Mayor, do you have anything else?
Yes, sir, there was a question about the AV system here in the courtroom. I did send out an email, we got one email from the comptroller's office saying we had all the documentation we needed, we could go ahead and get it. An hour later, we got another email from someone else at the comptroller's office who outranks that previous person, who said, no, you do not have everything you need, you cannot use anything from another state, it has to be the state of Tennessee or the federal government, which we do not have. So right now, the documentation we have is not sufficient to do it without bidding it out. Ms. Thomas looked at that. We have been working on another RFP. She went ahead, using the discussion that had been talked about what we were looking for, filled in some blanks on RFP, and we now have one ready to go that we can issue anytime. She had initially put it that we would have it back to request for proposals. The proposals would be due on April 22nd. So that's where we stand right now. I mean, instead of just going back and forth, my suggestion is to RFP, that way we deal whatever comptroller's office issues are, and we get a response in pretty quick.
So basically what this is sending it to bid, as we typically say, request for proposal. Do we know who we're gonna target sending this to?
We're going to reach out to the one we did before, which was roll call and another gentleman. We'll send it out to, obviously, Mr. Gregor and him, and the other one is just required to put it in the local newspaper. We'll put it on Facebook and our website, and whoever responds, responds. A lot of these groups do Google searches or Google alerts or anything like that, and they've got something that, as soon as these things are posted online, somewhere software alerts them, but it's there, so we may get some that we've never heard of.
So it is ready to go.
It is drafted and ready to go right now.
Mr. Tucker.
The only question I have is, are you guys obligated to take the lowest bid irregardless?
No.
Now, if you have a proposal that comes in and it doesn't specifically address everything in your request or proposal, or it maybe has one section that they want to mess around with, no, you're not required to take the lowest, you're required to take what is kind of the lowest price for the best product.
Understood.
But like I
That
said,
makes perfect sense.
instead of going back and forth like we've been doing, we're just gonna go ahead and we would suggest going ahead and just do the proposal and get it out of the way.
Well, I understand that completely. As I said, I don't know too many places I don't know in this part of the state that does.
Typically, when we send things out like this, most of them you send them to never even respond. It takes someone that's been interested in it.
It's just a weird niche project that is so out of the scope of 90% of the business. That's the reason I'm restricted to manufacturing in the first place.
Well, I think that's what we need to do to be able to move forward with it. I don't see anything else.
What was the date on that, the final of that?
The proposal would be due April 22nd. I think maybe 4 p.m. on April 22nd.
We're required to give it at least 14 days, is that correct, or something like that?
Well, it depends on what your purchasing policy is. We generally try to do it for at least 2 weeks, depending on what the items are. Like I said, she put it together. We had already kind of came up with a framework using one we found from Kentucky that covered a lot of our bases, and then given the discussion that was at the committee and everything, she filled in the rest of it, so we pretty much have everything that was discussed is included in that RFP.
When you write it up, can't you put it in there, the union, all of these could be rejected?
Well, you usually do put that language in there, saying you reserve the right to reserve.
That way, you go out, you go out the ones you don't want, and they come up, can't come back and say, well, why did you take this one, not that? Have that cover the bases on that and pick the one you want.
Typically up to us to pick the one we want. It's, for them to provide us the information. They're saying, this is what I'm gonna do this for, and then you decide who you want to do it.
But if that's in.
Because there's other considerations other than price. Other considerations other than price,
Yeah.
Yeah. minority contractors, distance, service, warranty, you know, all those type of things can weigh into the decision. Okay, so
Gives me a motion to put that in.
let's do.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. Gold,
Y'all take it. As written.
second by Mr. Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Appreciate you doing that, getting it going. Sorry, it's been such a back and forth, I think it was just timing as much as anything.
Better do it when we need to.
Anything else you have? Other things that we had sent to committees, we'd asked for the sidewalk regulations at the last meeting, go back to code and zoning committee. Planning commission maybe work together on that. Did y'all set a date to do that?
I have not, I talked with Sam, Friday? Sam and I had a discussion, just trying to get my head more around all of what we're trying to look at. I have not heard from any of the planning commission on that part though. Is that, you can talk to Mr. Kerr, that is he chair?
Yeah, be sure.
I think we could work through him or with Sam. I would assume they typically meet at 7 o'clock. Second, maybe too late to do it now, but they probably thought y'all would try to meet like at 6 so you could
Meet them together, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Sam and I talked Friday, just kind of run through some
I think
things.
it's too late to get notification on that for this month is my fear now. So I don't know, you might want to go ahead and call your committee meeting and see what the main issues, talking points are, and then try to get with the three of y'all. Or go to planning and talk about some of the issues that come up. You would, I think you would be well in your right to go and present them to that and see what their thoughts are on it. And then come back to your committee meeting.
Yeah, we'll call it that way.
Whichever way you want to handle it.
Yeah, I'll move that direction. Sam and I will kind of get some things together, looking at some of the pieces, the conversations we've had, trying to get a few more pieces. I've talked to a couple more.
Well, I had talked to Mr. Kerr about it, and he was in agreement that there were several things brought up that they had not even considered, that had not been brought up in planning meetings. And they certainly, think that they're valid considerations, and they want to address them.
He and I talked to me, but hadn't read anything else past. So we made that. He hadn't had a chance to go talk to any more of his planning commission, have any conversations at that point. I'm sure they certainly mulled over some thoughts.
Are there any other things that were in committees or have been sent to committees in times past? I couldn't think of anything that we really we're working on. I know we've talked about, the upgrades necessary in here, but that'd be building committee to move forward with some of those. And I know we've had talked about relocating offices and things of that nature, but there's been nothing ever decided on that I recall.
I don't know, not really. Not sure.
We were waiting to hear back from the putting together a study for the historical purposes.
Yeah, we did, and then Johnson Controls, which does energy efficiency projects, contacted us, and they came and actually looked at the courthouse, looked at the windows. Of course, we told them, hey, it's gotta be done in a historical manner. They've actually done that project in other communities. And so they were looking to make a proposal. They came and looked at the courthouse, the little league fields for the ball field lights on, and a couple of other ones. And they were gonna put together a proposal of what we could do to improve systems here at the courthouse and those other things, like replacing the ball field lights and the poles and all that down there. So they were gonna wrap it all up in one proposal. And since they were wanting to come in and look at the windows and be part of theirs, I didn't see reason to go ahead and spend money outside of that, and they're gonna come in and do it. And they've done it in, he said they've done it in another historical courthouse somewhere recently, so.
Just let us know when you get that information back. Well,
I will, they came out a week and a half ago, I think, when Mr. Slee went around, looked at some of the buildings, and they were putting some together, so when we have that, Mr. Slee and I sit down and look at it, someone's gotta go Parks and Rec for the lights and ball field. this stuff, I mean, they were looking at the windows, they were looking at the AC units, they were looking at the boiler system, which is from 1954, I believe. So hopefully it'll be, interesting to see.
Yeah, I was up here with them, they looked at the lighting up here, and, they felt like that, you know, we went ahead and ordered, the 200-watt equivalent LED bulbs and put in the rest of these fixtures up here. They're supposed to be in, I think, any day. And, they didn't see any way that we could improve the lighting without doing some sort of track lighting or spotlighting, task lighting that was actually coming down. And talked about different pipes that could be easily taken down if needed to, and the ones that would match the decor, be, you know, somewhat historically correct, or some things that look like old theater lights with little barn doors and things, that they thought that was a good idea, and or just black cans somehow shooting down. Felt like they said six spotlights beaming down would light this area here at the front sufficiently.
With flood type lamps.
Yeah. So, there again, just waiting to see, you know, officially what the report says, but in talking with them, their only other solution was to come back with a, like a cove down from the ceiling with the light shooting up and light shooting down, but with a band so that you weren't looking directly at the light. But they said that that wouldn't really address the center part where you need to light the most. That would take care of the walls and around the perimeter, but wouldn't really address this in this area that much. So I'm anxious to see what the report says, but that was one option. Obviously, it would be a whole lot more costly doing that too, but they said the issue is the high ceiling and the dark green ceiling, that you can't reflect any light out of it. I said, well, thank you for telling us. We didn't know that. And but you know, I think it's addressable. They thought it was addressable. They thought it could be improved without a lot of problem. They spent a lot of time here looking and measuring things. They did spend a lot of time at the ball field, looking at that lighting, and they said, we're gonna have you a lot to read. I believe is the way he put it to me. So hopefully we'll get that real soon.
This ceiling always been this color.
No, it was, originally it was a silver, you know.
That's what it means. If it was white or silver, it'd be lighting.
Probably the metallic, you know, it rusted and it was rusty spots, so.
They kill the lighting when they done it.
And I would say probably the reason they put the suspended ceiling in here with the trough in it was to improve the light. You know, and we took that out to go back to this, and I love this. We're just going to put some spots up there somehow, like these areas, which shouldn't be a major cost or a major problem. Because all that ceiling is open, it's easy to get into it.
The vaudeville style barn door theatrical lights are pretty common. It's kind of the whole vaudeville era stuff, all those lights are, you know, uplights for their barn things. As we heard talk about footlights and you'll, you know, plays and music and stuff, that's what they're barn. That wouldn't change historically or as far as the building is concerned.
And you would look like a place, people would probably walk in here and think they've been up there for a while.
It would be very good.
So,
The dark colors, I think affects the lighting in here.
the dark green is what killed it, and these fixtures are for pretty. They're not made for lighting. They're made for pretty, and you know, so all of those things just kind of work against you, I guess. But I think we can address it so that it will be better looked at. We've looked into. I will go ahead and bring up. We looked into tables, the lectern style tables. These are 32 inches. Ones that were either 24 or 18 inches deep. to give us more room getting in and around the tables. They also, or where these are 72 inches, a double would be 60 inches, so it would be a foot shorter. It'd be 2 people to a table and a narrower table. Even if we go to that, we're still not gonna be able to get everybody up in here in the bar. We're gonna have to probably put a table just against the bar there and 2 out here. So those benches will go all the way against the back wall to give us enough room to do that. We've already measured, and there's plenty of room to do that. Those tables are about $200 each. You're talking needing 11 of them. So that's a pretty substantial sum of money. We can go with these. We can make these work. It's just a little tighter getting in and out. The others will give us a little bit more room, you know, getting in and out and around them. We've looked at several sources, all the sources that we could come up with, and just about any of them, they're in that 200, 250 price range for that type of electric table. And it's the kind of table that has the straight legs down and the skirt behind it, and you don't have that brace hitting you in the knee, you know, getting in under it. So it's made for that purpose, not just a general purpose table like these. When I did these, we went with black because we thought it would look better up here, and these weren't real expensive, and we knew even if we went to something else later on, that these would still be used somewhere somehow. You know, it's not like you're gonna throw these in the dumpster. They'd just be repurposed to another place. We know we're gonna have to buy some tables. The water department's gonna have to buy tables for their new building. So there's any number of places and ways that they could be used. If nothing else, over at the Justice Center, they could be used over there. But Mayor, did you come up with any better pricing on those than that?
You had asked me about the mid-10 office supply, to look at some, and they did, they actually worked this, and I got it earlier today. Now, these are professional, like you see in the offices, they're not what you and I would look at.
Okay.
And the cheapest one they got is $329. So you and I look at, you buy or something like that, like $195.
I guess the question is, do we want to invest in that or make do with what we have? Yes, sir.
The only question I have is you spend all this money to make this room look really nice. And then do you want to detract from having, you know, plastic tables? That's not a thought.
You know about these tables?
Or anything that would be a cheap table. I mean, you spend a lot of money in this building to make it look nice. I mean, would you want it to look nicer than you want it to look? It's, you know, it's just a thought. You know,
The one I found, the electric
I'm not in
tables
opposition.
that I found that were like 211 or something, had a laminate top, and it was a dark walnut wood looking laminate top, had the straight legs, the legs were black, and the skirt panel across the front was black. The skirt panel is for privacy for women in skirts, that's why they call it a skirt panel. But it's also what braces the table to keep it from wobbling on these straight legs. So I think they were somewhere in the neighborhood of roughly $200, give or take $20–25.
Those definitely would look a lot better.
Yeah, and they would match this, and what we were talking about doing is trying to keep this big table, but move it forward. You know, if we have to saw the leg off or something, so it would move forward some. And I think we set a table, that's why if you remember the other night you came in, we had a table sitting over there. We tried it, looking at it to see if we thought we could see people there, and it seemed like it worked. We could work tables up here possibly, but just for the field of view and field of view for the cameras that we're going to put in, we need to try to keep people in that area, that field of view if we possibly could.
230 degrees from center. If you read the cut sheet on the cameras, it's about 230 degrees from center.
Okay.
What is the purpose of the big table?
It's got a leg in the center and it won't go all the way back. because of the way that's made it from.
Thanks, you mean what the purpose, why was it used for?
It's where the attorney sat at. So you had, the prosecution was on one side and public defender was on this other, or plaintiff and defendant, but that's where the attorney said it used to be out here and they chairs all the way around it.
I mean, it could be moved out and you just buy 2 more tables. It's just, if you use it, you wouldn't have to buy 2 more tables.
Cut them legs off and go back.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about then.
How wide was the ones you're talking about?
Different ones are different, 20 or either 18 or 20. The one that I liked the best, that I was talking about, was 20 inches, if I remember correctly.
That would give you a lot more room. I'd cut them legs off and slide that thing on in. Cut them off right, and be just like this now. Not even one anchor, when you be moving. You move it, you shut up.
I mean, you still have the legs on the end, so if you need to move it, it'd still stand up. You just wouldn't be able to put a lot of weight on it. You know, and whatever we saw off, we'll take from the bottom of it, so if we can
It's
put
not
one
the
roller.
middle ones that don't need to be cut. Just the middle ones only that we cut.
Cut that one middle right there off, it's hard to get on it.
That's what I'm saying, that middle one's all we gotta do.
Dwight, what are the dimensions?
Those are 32 by 72. They're 6 foot.
That's 11 inches. 8.5 by 11.
You cut that off and put a hinge on it, you drop back down. And it's not good enough. Put a catch on the other side.
That's what I gotta see. Vision.
But, you know, I think we can make that table work and have 2 people, 4 people at it comfortably. You can't now because of the center leg on that side, which you're gonna need to keep. But you're still gonna have 4 people at that table and then the others out through there. But, you know, if we use it, it would save us having about 2 tables. I mean,
I would use it.
So I cut you down on your table, you say you still need 11 or you're gonna need 9?
well, math.
So you need
We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 2, 3. 6. We would need 9. Yeah. Yeah, we would need 9. We would need 9. It would be 9.
You need a motion to move this, the budget that we want to do.
I just want, yeah, I guess if you think that's what we want to do.
I think it's great where we are right now, personally. Yeah, I'll make it a motion. I'm not good. Then we send that to the budget finance committee.
Go ahead and
What are we saying?
purchase the new desk, the regular electric type desk type. I think these chairs are gonna be okay. They're black, they're vintage. I know some of you say they're not real comfortable, but as far as fitting in the space, they fit pretty easy and they're easy to move around if we need to move them. We can address that at a later date. If we find that we don't like these chairs particularly, I'm fine with it. Okay, we have a motion. And we have a second by Mr. Gregory. Motion by Mr. Kelly, second by Mr. Gregory for us to pursue the new tables. Any further discussion about it? Any ideas? I mean, y'all have enjoyed having the tables.
Yes, I want to keep
Okay.
it myself personally. I think where we're going with that AV system, if that comes in the future, it's a necessity as well. It cuts down on peripheral view there, as you said as well.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, we'll try to get that done too. Now, one thing I will caution y'all on, that once we get these, you're gonna be, where you sit is where you're gonna be sitting. I mean, you can't sit here tonight and over there, you know, you need to sit the same place. So, we'll have a free for all in here the first night with everybody fighting over where you're gonna sit, but just,
What do you make sense to that? Therefore, addition.
Well, honestly, if I may speak about that, so the way that software works, I've been reading about that software.
okay.
So that should we build that route down the line, somebody's gonna have to do some sort of tech support locally, probably from time to time. So I gotta familiarize myself with it. each person that is sent there, your position is based on the coordinates of where you are. So when you are recognized and you push your button, when the camera comes to you, that it's coming to those coordinates where it is. So it's a real simple way to update, and it's a PTZ camera. So, but it's going to recognize that Beverly, when she pushes her button, it's going to go to this by the mathematical number that equals that portion of the room is where it's going to go. So that's the whole reason I thought I told you about that. You just keep moving around. Because if she pushes her button and she's sitting over there, we need to each other. Or it might instead, it might be the land. You know, so.
So, I mean, I don't see that as being a problem. Typically, we all come in and sit in the same place. Anyway, I mean, or were when we were at the table. Yes.
On your suggestion of sitting in the same place while we sell like this. First, second, third. That way everybody will know where they're supposed to be starting.
We can do that, and that way no one's happy, or we can let us kind of pick and choose, and a few people might be happy. I'm open to how we all want to do it. I just want you to know that it's going to need to be basically the same place. Not a bad idea.
Either that or alphabetical order, whichever way.
We'll figure it out. We still got some time. But be thinking.
Yeah, just once you get planted where you are, that's where
Yeah. And I, you know, there are reasons that I would like to have Mr. Dickey and maybe some of us that don't hear real well. If I were out there, I was going to be right up front because of my hearing issues. I'm still going to be, even with that sound system, it's still going to be better for him to see lips moving. So, you know, that's why I hate to arbitrarily say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, that's it.
Pretty much right in front.
Yeah, either way. We'll look at it. We have anything else? We have anything else? Anything there? Any other commissioners?
Do you have anybody for Ms. Johnson?
Have you had anybody contact you for Ms. Johnson's position?
I had one woman contact me, but I haven't received any applications as of yet.
I have not
We've
talked to
got it posted online, so people can go at it and look at it and load the form there. So I've had one person call and ask me questions, but I haven't received any forms.
Certainly have not. Contacted some people in that district, made them aware. I talked to Mr. Beeler, I talked to Mr. Bird, former commissioner in that district, you know, letting them know we did have an opening for them to help us try to find someone. And they both said they would, but I've not heard anything from either one. Thank you for remembering that.
There's keys over there.
Public comments, anybody like to ask a question, say anything? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn by Mr. Ferguson. Have a second, Mr. Clarity, second. All in favor, please say it.
Do you think you'll have that information back in time to have a village committee meeting?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's gonna get. Over here on the front camp, over here.
Well, I'll just wait till I'll wait till I hear from you.
I'll get it over
Yeah, it's so big without dropping down there.